Hello, and welcome to the No Fruit Podcast.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. This is Maurice.
And this is Kafi.
We thank you for tuning in today. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode.
Hey, everybody. Hey, everybody. Hey, everybody.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, y'all. Listen, let me tell you right now that this whole thing we're going through today, I just hope that everybody is okay today. I just want y'all to feel good about what's going to happen. I know some of us don't feel good what's happening right this second, but let's look forward to some happier times. What you think, Kyle?
Most certainly. And sometimes you got to look back on the good times as well and know that trouble don't last always, as they say.
So, no, that's right. So today, we're going to talk about state of confusion.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So understand the play on the word state, right? So these United States of America, I think we're in a state of confusion right now because we have really lost where we're supposed to be looking to. In all honesty, this is just the way I feel.
Right.
I know a lot of us are saying, hey, take the lesser of two evils when they talk about this whole election to, hey, we have to get this devil out the office. And, and I'm not going to put words in anyone's mouth. And I'm not here to condemn anybody because I have neither heaven nor hell to put anybody through. But what I will say is that this situation that we're going through is very, very confusing because unfortunately for me, I can't tell where some of our religious leaders are, to be honest. Because some of us say, we're in the world, not of the world, and we're of the world, but not in the world. So I can't tell, and I understand sometimes people get certain phrases mixed up in the wording because of emotions and things like that. But, I really don't know where we are, which overall put us in a state of confusion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as we all understand, when it comes down to it, Satan seeks to cause chaos, disorder, death, and destruction, right? If that's some of the things that we talk about as a church, and I think that we're really in that place right now.
Yes.
In all honesty, unfortunately, I don't think we have enough leaders that can really carry us through. So I'm saying all that to say that, I really do believe that those that are really truly about it need to start to stand up a little bit. And in that, I think I'm calling on myself to some of this too.
I was going to say, sounds like you're speaking to the man in the mirror.
Because I do believe that I have a little, oomph to me, in a lot of ways. And, one of the things I understand that as we come up with these topics, we're paying attention to what's going on. Again, we're talking about life experiences and things like that with a spiritual twist. That's the whole point of the No Fruit Podcast, right?
That's right.
And so if you've been paying attention the last couple of weeks, Kyle, like we've been talking about politics and family stuff or whatever else.
Right.
And we have some great content coming up, for early 2021. I mean, we've been really thinking about this and just trying to put our life in order. But, sometimes, there are moments where I've been thinking about our future and I'm like, wow, I don't know what to do. And I feel like I'm confused. Like, I don't know what to do.
Right. Is that because you have so many options out there or What's causing confusion?
I think for me, I think one, like you said, is options. Number two is just my God-given abilities sometimes kind of get in the way, and I kind of want to infuse everything at once. But I think ultimately it comes down to trying to understand the climate that we are in and how the best affect the climate that we're in, how to bring people together, how to nurture people, how to direct people better. And, and so for me, most recently, it's just been about, you know what, Maurice, don't stress about that. Do what you're going to do, and God is going to bring them to you. But God is going to direct them to you, or he's going, or he's somehow God is going to work it out. Don't stress too much about it.
Okay.
And so, but as I'm paying attention to social media and things like that, it looks like a lot of us are kind of just waiting for like the ball to drop, and it's like, no, like we got to continue to push and do and things like that. Like we can't wait. Some things we can't wait, and if that's been the argument for a lot of things that's been going on, with our presidential candidates, i.e., I heard some people arguing that our candidate that ran for the Democratic Party probably waited too long to even announce that he was going to run. Like he should have, announced when everybody else originally announced. Because remember, he came in a little later.
Right.
We talk about the one that ran for the Republican Party. That hey, you know what? He waited too long to get more of a handle on COVID-19. So there's been a lot of waiting. So when do we become proactive and not reactive? Especially if we truly believe that God has it all in control. That's just the kind of way I'm feeling at this moment.
I mean, I think you're saying a lot there with the confusion. What I'm getting is that God is in control and God is not in anything that's confusion. So I think if we truly put our mind on God and our mind on Christ, then there is no confusion. I think the issue is that there's so many things flying our way, coming at us, that it takes our mind, our sight off of God. It takes it off of Christ. And as you know, hey, you can do great things as long as you are focused on Christ. You can walk on water. You can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. So I think that is the key part. And we've talked about this a lot recently when it comes to these politics and it comes to our leadership, that a lot of them are not in the right position, even though they have a position.
Right.
And that's confusing because they're in a position, but they're not in position. And I'm going to break it down because I don't know if everybody understands what I'm saying.
Are you preaching?
I'm preaching. You better get it ready. Tune me up now. Tune me up. So, they have a position within the body of Christ. They have a position within our government. And that's a title. So that's the position.
Right.
But they're not in position for that title, if you will. So they're not connected to whom they need to be connected with and to. So they're not in the right position. So they have to be in position to be a servant.
Right.
Like Christ was. And I think a whole lot of them are not at that position. So like you said, hey, are they working things? Are they just sitting around waiting? So if you're waiting, you're not serving.
Okay.
So, I mean, I know unless you're a waitress and you're also called a server, but, I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about, you're standing by hoping and wishing and waiting for something to happen or something to change.
Right.
But as you're stating, Maurice, that now is not that time to sit around and wait. Right now, it's November, and as many people say, it's harvest time.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever you have sown for the No Fruit podcast and everything else, it's now time to reap what you have sown. And a lot of us have been thinking that nothing has been going on because since March, since February, January, we've been kind of in this I'm stuck situation. But with that, we should have still been working. We still should have been moving. We still should have been doing something. So, we really need to start to think within these next few weeks before the end of the year, what have we done with this time that God has given to us?
Mm-hmm.
And what position were we in during this time?
Right.
Because especially for the church leadership, what position were you in? Were you on your knees? Were you laying prostrate before the Lord?
Mm-hmm.
Were you on your face?
Mm-hmm.
Were you turning your plate down? Were you praying? Were you encouraging people?
Wow.
Where has your ministry gone? What have you done?
Well, I'm sorry, real quick. I had to jump in.
Come on now.
I haven't turned down a plate, though. I think I've gained some weight. I know that's not what you was talking about, but I'm just going to be honest, and I understand that you were on a whole nother kick, Cobb, but, some of us.
We started off, the pandemic kind of happened during Lent. So, we had given up some things for Lent.
Mm-hmm.
And due to our leadership, we thought that the pandemic was going to end when Lent ended.
Right.
But not such the case. We're still here. So I think, again, what position are we in? Where are we right now?
Mm-hmm.
And that's key. Just knowing where we are as leaders, as people of God.
Right.
As a country, where are we?
Right.
So many times we as a country want to say that we are, top.
Mm-hmm.
We're the best. United States is the best. There's none else like us. Everybody wants to come here and everybody wants to duplicate what we have. But what position are we really in?
Right.
I mean, some say we're falling short. There's
Right.
some other countries out there that are doing a whole lot better than we are. Their economy is thriving more. Their people are not getting sick and dying off due to this pandemic. There's some folks out there that are looking at us and saying, yeah, y'all not what y'all think you are.
Right.
So what position, again, are we? And I think that's the confusing part, because we think we're one thing, but we're not.
Right.
We think we're a church leader, but are we really? We think we're a pastor, an apostle, a bishop, but what position are we really?
I think we are confused. All right, so
it's back to confusion.
If we're going to talk about from a church perspective, sometimes, we've talked about it in previous episodes where, unfortunately, there's nothing for a certain group of or a certain demographic to do within the church. So from a church perspective, unfortunately, especially for males, I mean, after you become a young adult, in most cases, is like literally nothing else for you to do.
But I think now is that time, church has its rituals, like you said, of, hey, after you do this and you can't do, there's nothing else available for you to do. You don't have a whole lot of 25-year-old Sunday school teachers, that are males.
Right.
What do you do with those folks?
Right.
But when you look at the world, and again, we're not trying to say, hey, become the world within the church, but they are redefining themselves. They're becoming authors. They're becoming
right.
entrepreneurs. They're looking at their gifts and their graces and their talents, and they're looking at their hobbies, and they're making something out of it.
Right.
So I think, again, the church can pick that up and say, hey, well, what can we do? No, we can't all get together and congregate, but how does the leadership position everyone else for growth? Because if not, then you're not going to have any fruit.
Right.
I'm fearful with all of this confusion that we don't know our fruit. We don't know what kind of fruit we have. We don't know if we have apples. We don't know if we have oranges. We don't know if we have pomegranates. We don't know what fruit as leaders that we're dealing with.
Right.
And because of that, we don't know how to grow that fruit. So that's the confusing part. You think you have tropical fruit, so you're providing all this for tropical fruit, but it's not.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's grapes and vineyard. So not knowing your fruit, your fruit's going to die off because you're not feeding it and nurturing it properly for it to grow and for it to thrive. So that's, the confusing part.
Right.
So first, leaders, you got to know your fruit. Know your fruit. That's what it comes down to. And that's from not only church leaders, but that's our political leadership as well. How connected are they? How much do they know their fruit? And I think that's some of the issues.
I think a certain group of people know and understand their fruit. And that's why certain groups are able to stay a little more tight-knit and close. And those other groups that may know their fruit but don't trust their fruit because their fruit, they're nervous that their fruit is going to take their spot.
Or their fruit,
you get what I mean?
Because they don't, I think it's the confusion part again. I think because they don't know that, hey, I have to prune some things back. I have to do some fertilizing. I have to do something with it that the fruit, if they don't, then what happens is the fruit becomes overgrown. And then being overgrown, it swallows up or it casts shadows on others.
I got you.
So from that, I think it makes it look not pleasing. And then things that are overgrown, they're not going to produce as much fruit. You have to prune it back in order for it to produce more.
Got you.
So I think that's some of the confusing part. Again, what are our political leaders doing to grow the community?
That's a good question.
What are our spiritual leaders doing to grow the community?
So, there is a pastor that I know that is literally growing a garden in her community, literally, right now. And she will probably post something, early on in the pandemic, she was posting almost every day. Recently, she hasn't been posting every day of the growth in the garden and things like that. But she did post not too long ago of what has been produced in the garden. Like you said, it's harvest time. So she's actually showing what they have produced in that area. And what it's done, it has brought the community closer together.
Correct.
And so how many persons, and she's a pastor in, I believe that's Montgomery County. So I would love for y'all to go and find out who I'm speaking about. Her initials are CCC, so I'll give you a hint. CCC. And for those of you who were in the Amy Church in YPD, you know who CCC is. So, a lot of you will pay attention that she has been a really, really inspirational person in doing that. She's been bringing people together doing this in all reality. And I think that as I look at the pictures and the videos, it looks like there's been bringing people of multiple cultures,
right,
and ethnic groups together. That's one of the things I think that you're really getting at, Kafa, is that especially since we're scared overall, and I'm just putting us into it. I'm not saying we're not included, but just when I say us, all of us are worried about all types of gentrification, because gentrification goes on both is across the board, right? But I know we only talk about when Caucasians go into black neighborhoods, but what about when those integration moments of blacks going to white neighborhoods? So everybody's concerned about all of that. I mean, that's one of the things that was a talking point about, hey, we're going to save the suburban wives and things like that, like So it was more about it than just money and jobs. It was other situations
right,
along
on the
with
political
that.
scene, yes.
Right. So, so when it comes down to it, we're all concerned about some type of intermingling one way or the other. So, this young lady, she truly has been able to bridge some of those gaps. And just something as simple as planting a garden reduce the confusion of, can we work together?
Mm-hmm.
It reduced the confusion of, can a garden grow amongst all of these houses? Because not like she's in a rural area. She really isn't.
Right.
Now, is she in the suburbs of Philadelphia? No, she most definitely is.
Right.
But she has truly shown what it means to be a level-headed, steadfast person, in my opinion, and to be a leader in one way or the other. Now, sometimes people may use things to be therapeutic, and just other people can find it as therapeutic, and
right,
do whatever they need
connection
to
with
do.
the earth, and,
right?
True grassroots, organization to the core,
quote unquote,
But yes, I do believe that can draw people in of all walks of life.
Right.
And of course, you have the far elitist that, that's going to get them dirty and they wouldn't do that. And
right.
then you have some others where, hey, my grandfather was a sharecropper and I said I would never, ever, ever. So, you have both sides of that. But again, all of those that are in the middle of that bell curve can certainly connect. But even for those that are on the outliers, they can certainly see the heart of it and see that it can be a good thing.
Right.
Right. So, it can certainly help with confusion and bringing some peace, if you will, to it all.
Right.
So, but a lot is going on. I mean, politically, it's I don't know, a mouthful. It's just.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to go down that rabbit hole now.
But I think it's just building more confusion.
Most definitely.
And I think that we all need to be careful how we not interact, but allow that confusion, that seed that's trying to be planted of confusion, how we receive it or not receive it,
right?
If you will. So again, we as believers and we as leaders within the faith have to help people to discern, if you will, amongst all of that's going on, because the devil is throwing many, many fiery darts all around to
cause confusion
and blind you, if you will, so that you can't see straight and you can't think straight. So
And I think because everything that's been going on with the pandemic, people losing their jobs, you know, I can't think of the term, but the food, what is it called? When there's a lack of food, I can't think of what the, no. What the key phrase is now. But just some of these lack of resources as of right now can starve you, and and make you lose focus on what's going on. You no longer have the energy for what you really need to focus on because you're so you're just so exhausted. I think people are just exhausted about what's going on. I
think some of them are losing faith and losing hope.
And that's
so it's much praying as fasting and asking everyone else, oh, pray for my family member. That we're just losing people left and right.
Right.
I don't know. Just within the month of October, we just lost so many people. And it's hard. It does truly take a toll on you. It's almost like I feel like we're at war, and I've never been at war, but just how many people are impacted
but
by what's going on. It's just
one thing I would like
sad
to say, that in this what we consider confusion, and I think I said it before, as far as the United States is concerned, I feel like sometimes we have been isolated from what the rest of the world might have been experiencing all this time, especially during our lifetime.
Okay.
So when it comes down to some of these fights and some of these disagreements and not sure what's going to happen when you walk outside. See, for us, that's been, for at least for you and I being born in the 70s, we just did not have those struggles that a John Lewis, who talks about what he had to go through in the 60s, walking over the bridge and people getting locked up for sitting on the bus and, doing these months and months long strikes of not, riding the bus and, just all these things that happened right before we were born.
Right.
In all honesty, and our people being sent to wars and coming back not the same, for a war that we should have never been a part of, as they said. So, it's and I'm just talking about those 10 years prior to you and I being born.
Right.
Let alone those that were, in the 40s and in the teens and, dealing with the depression of the 30s, 20s, and 30s. So during our lifetime, there was an appearance of, in all honesty, abundance. Let's be all the way real, and it's interesting that as we've been going through the last 12, 14 years, because even during the previous administration, we did go through a depression. We did go through some other crises before. Even the administration before him, we did go through a war with that, but there was a false sense of togetherness then, right? And then right after that, the administration...
The attack didn't feel so personal. It didn't hit your own home as much, So yes, there was a war, but if you had someone that was in the service, then you felt it. But this is like...
Well, no. Well, I would say those that lived in the city, especially New York City, or had friends in New York City,
right.
They felt attacked.
Yes.
They most definitely felt attacked. And then the narrative was, it was an attack on the United States and our Christian beliefs, because that's the way it was put out there. Now, all of a sudden, we want to go to war with these, persons of Islamic faith, right? Almost like, with this pandemic, now all of a sudden we want to go against the war with almost anyone that's Asian, and quite honestly, one of the things that everyone knows up front is that you don't want to go to a physical war with a country like China, because they outnumber us like 100 to 1. And that's even with, and that's without, even talking about the army. I'm just talking about everyday people.
Oh, wow.
You know, so, and I know that's an exaggerated number, but in reality, I believe I think the number is 7-1 or 8-1 or something like that.
Okay.
So, so when you think about that, when you look at those real numbers, if they really wanted to go to war with us, they could overrun us easily. And let's keep this in mind too. How many of them already live in this country? Mm-hmm. So, you know, when you
and we have some folks that are there as well, but you know, again, I think we just all need to be mindful of what's going on and get refocused,
right?
So that we're not confused. You
right?
know, how do you deal with it when you're in a state of confusion?
Right.
You know, to me, confusion is like being lost.
Right.
So when you're lost, how do you find your way?
Mm-hmm.
Or how do you get back on track?
Right.
You go ask for direction. And in times like these, you know, who do we go to for direction?
Right.
Who do we go to for direction? So we certainly can pray about it. Mm-hmm. We certainly can contact our spiritual leaders and ask for direction.
Right.
We can go to one another.
And see, even when we talk about going to our spiritual leaders, unfortunately, because everyone has their own opinion and viewpoints and experiences, a lot of times it doesn't appear that we're always on the same page. And I think that's our other thing too, that we really need to find a way to get back on track, you know, of becoming more of a together group of people, period.
And it's all people.
Right.
It's all people. So,
right.
I mean, ultimately, that's what God would want us to do, is to all come together, I believe. So, so, you know, what are your final thoughts in reference to this topic and confusion? And how
you know, just for me, it's just that verse in 1 Corinthians, the 14th chapter, the 33rd verse, you know, where it says, "For God is not the author of confusion, but of peace, as in all churches of the saints." So I just want to leave everyone with that God, he's not of confusion. He's of peace. You know, I just want us to remember that, you know.
And let that be your prayer. Let that be your hope.
Right.
In this time. Because I know a lot of people are very troubled these last couple of days since Tuesday. That they are quite troubled with the election, how things went.
Right.
Just at the polling place, and how things went with counting things, you know, so, and so forth and so on, the ads and things that led up to it. So with all that, you know, people are throwing things out there, trying to confuse us. Even when the news, you know, one news station is reporting and saying something, and then another news station is saying something somewhat different. I can't say it's a total opposite, but it's somewhat different, numbers wise, or what's actually happening out there in the community. How people are responding to things. They use words that make the story sound different, and it can be very confusing if you're listening to multiple platforms of news or multiple
that's why right now
from different people.
It's hard to even pick out like who is the winner, who's not the winner. And you know, and to be honest, is when you take a look at, I know we're talking about the election, but you know, it's hard to even determine right now where to go shopping, you know, where to buy your food, you know, who has fresher produce, you know,
anything. I mean, you know, one news is saying, hey, don't eat fresh vegetables because they haven't been properly washed and they have this kind of spray on them that's not good for you and it causes cancer, and then somebody else says no, eat more of that vegetable, it's good for you and it's great in vitamin, so it leaves you confused. You don't know who to believe,
right? I mean, even like, just have a friend who just moved to Arizona, from Philadelphia, and she mentioned to me the other day how the fruits and vegetables taste so different in Arizona, because she feels like they're coming straight from, the orchards in California.
Right.
Versus them being shipped from California to Philadelphia. How long does that take? Refrigerated or frozen and, all those type of things, where she feels it just came straight out of somebody's garden, literally. So again, when you look at those type of commercials from over here, because we understand that the programming is not the same across the country.
Correct.
We understand that. We understand target marketing. Again, target marketing. So, so that's just kind of where things are. I know that we say, well, hey, we're going to, what's my final thoughts? But Kav, did you say your final thoughts? Or was your final thought?
My final thoughts are, I come across a song and it says, "Whose report will you believe?" So that's kind of what I'm hanging on right now in this time of confusion, or this time of unrest, or whatever. Whose report will you believe? And the song says, "I will believe the report of the Lord." So I'm just leaning and trusting on the Lord. And that's my prayer. Like you said, the scripture was, with the confusion, like, hey, you got to lean on the Lord because he's not a God of confusion.
Right.
So that's our prayer for you. That's our prayer for the world, that we won't be confused through all of this.
Right.
That we'll recognize it, that's what the enemy is trying to do. He's trying to confuse us, because within confusion, even, remembering the Tower of Babel and, everybody speaking different language, like that created confusion, and the people then spread out.
Right.
They were so powerful together. But confusion came and then they had to spread out. So I'm thinking, again, with the pandemic, we had to spread out because now we can't be together. Even the wording, it wasn't like, hey, you have to be physically distant. You had to be socially distant. So it's like that doesn't make sense. But so we're all spread out now. We can't communicate that much, and we can't come together for the holidays. We can't come together in the workplace and all of those things. And now we're building even more confusion and more separatism. So I just think this is the way of the enemy, is trying to break us all down, and isolate us.
Can I be honest?
No.
There are some people that I'm kind of glad that we got social distance from.
I'm sure, but be careful in that, because that might be the person that sits right next to you when you get to heaven.
I mean, that's fine, but sometimes, some people, man, sometimes you just need a little distance from.
You need a little bit of distance.
Yeah, you need a little vacation from sometimes. And
I hope I'm not one of those people.
No, never that. You're my wife. Heck no. I mean, as husband and wife, do we need our little moments where we can say, "Oh, wow, I missed you today, baby.
I missed you today, baby."
So do we need those moments? Yeah, you do. But that's the one good thing, is that you do have a couple of days where you do have to go into the office. So, you come back and say, "Oh, I missed you. I thought of you today. Oh, baby, yeah. So
I say that.
No, you don't say all that, but
okay.
I just want to give people an idea. But, we thank y'all for listening to us today. And hopefully that we can build on this momentum together, and fix these moments of confusion that we're going through. And, or if we can't fix it, just continue to lean on God and hear what he has to say, and he'll fix it, so, maybe I kind of said that kind of twisted. Now I'm thinking about it, but let's continue to work together, lean together, pray together, and maybe one day, as all this starts to, fix itself, however the Lord sees fit, we can break bread together at some point in time. And again, we have some good content coming out. Kafi and I, we have another little podcast that's going, come out, a little later on. You'll get some more advertisements about that. You also can do what, Kafi? You can get our merch from where?
You can get merchandise.
Yes.
All sorts. T-shirts, long sleeves, sweatshirts. We have it. Check us out on Amazon.
Yes.
Amazon is a great place to go to get merchandise,
right.
to support the podcast, to let people know about it. So, yeah, check us out there. Again, that's the No Fruit Podcast. There's merchandise there. And it's not just related to our show. It's other things there as well.
I do have another podcast called That Will Never Work Podcast that airs on Tuesdays. So you can be sure that you check that out. Also, you can get, as Kafi said, our other merch, T-shirts and sweatshirts and hoodies for our apparel store, the Positive Energy T-shirt shop. And that's what it's called on Amazon. And you can do a Google search and you can look for our website, but it's positivenrgshop.com. All right, y'all.
So also one last thing, Maurice.
Mm-hmm.
I want everyone, please, 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 to help fight confusion. We need you to stay fit.
Yeah, stay fit. Facebook,
Stay fit.
Instagram, and Twitter.
Reach out to Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Share this podcast with someone to encourage them, to help them along the way. Because, again, we have to do this together.
Yes.
And we need to know our fruit.
Yes, we do.
We need to know our fruit. So go on out, everybody. Be fruitful. Spread the word with one another. So we love you for life.
Yes.
And until next time, may God bless you all and keep you.
Peace.
This week's episode has come to an end. But the fun doesn't have to stop here. If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback, head over right now to Twitter and Facebook and like, share, and get involved. Join us next time.